Broadcasting from Ireland, featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we're back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Deceive Reality Podcast. Thanks so much for coming. I'm here with Steve, as always. Steve, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Great. And we have a very special guest this week, Adam Wilber. Adam, how are you getting on?
I'm good. Very good. Thank you guys both for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, you're killing us with your backdrop. You know, it's just too fancy. Me and Steve are white walls. That's like...
yeah.
It's I got this on Amazon for like $30 and people think it's real. So it's like, great, works for me.
Win-win.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thanks for coming on. We always like to start with talking to our guests about briefly how they got into this like weird, magical, crazy world that is magic. How did your like love of magic really get started?
For me, it was 6 years old. A friend showed me a trick. Well, it didn't fool me. He was doing it at a talent show and I caught a glimpse. He did the zombie and I saw the little arm and I was like, ooh, I got you, dude. And then I just remember being like, I must be special if I could see the secret. So I befriended this kid, went to his house one day and he showed me his whole drawer of magic, everything. It wouldn't teach me anything because he was a real magician. So no secrets given. But then I found the book at the bookstore of the Silk Vanish. And I got it and learned it and showed my dad. And I think I was 7 at that time. And I knew I fooled my dad. And I was like, what is this thing here? Like, there's something here. And I was hooked. I just never stopped. After that, it was that, the feeling of fooling the smartest person on the planet and genuinely baffling them. It was like, I was hooked. So started at 7, 8 and just kept going.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is that feeling that we all get hooked for when you're like, because as a kid, all you want to do is like be smart because you always think you're the smartest person who's ever existed. And it's like, oh, I can finally do this thing. It's that feeling that we all strive for.
And you also think like people in their 30s are really fucking old. But then when you're in your 30s, you're like, that's not old at all.
Yeah. Hey, when you're in your 40s, you're thinking that's not old at all. All right. I'll tell you that.
We're getting there, man. We're catching up with you.
Yeah, 41, but I feel, I still feel like that 7-year-old. So, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about magic, right? Is that my job is to play. And who really gets to say that? Of course, we got to book shows and do all that stuff. But when we're doing what we're doing, we're playing. We're making people smile or we're inventing things and playing. It's like, I just couldn't imagine really doing anything else, right? And after knowing that this is out there and it's a possibility, it's like, I guess if someone paid you $1 million to go sit in a cubicle, maybe I could force my way in there. But, it's just, we're very lucky to get to do what we do.
Definitely. That's like in that cubicle, how many decks of cards like surround you in the cubicle? Right. It's just that's the only thing. Because I think it's one of those things as well where magicians love to fidget. Like you always see, if you ever see a magician, they're playing with cards, playing with coins, and it's that sort of stuff. What's your like go-to fidget item with like magic? Is it like cards, coins,
cards? Sort of thing? Yeah. I mean, I did invent this thing called a fiddle stick, which I play with a lot. It's just a fidget toy that you can flick around. But if I'm out and about, deck of cards, doing something, usually doing like one of 2 moves that I do poorly, but those are just the things that feel good in the hands,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it happened to me at the dentist actually one time. I had headphones in. I was just listening to music and totally zoned out. And I'm just going like, I just springing cards. And I looked up like after about 10 minutes and everyone, the whole waiting room was just staring at me. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. Because we all know that noise, you know what I mean? It's not quiet. If you're doing a few hard springs and doing some moves, there's plenty of noise like.
Yeah, Jay Sankey said he used to bring coins around on like planes and trips and stuff because you pull out a deck and start springing it. It's just you're a magician, but if you have one coin and you're just practicing it just looks like you're fumbling around with a coin,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to get into a bit of Rubik's Cube magic, but my wife was like, if I hear that sound of that Rubik's Cube one more time, you have to move out because I was like,
you will no longer have a wife.
Exactly. So I was like, that's not really the way forward. But yeah, that fiddlestick you really started, that was when you were at Illusionist, wasn't it? Just around that time. Yeah, because how did you kind of get hooked up with Illusionist to begin with, like releasing products and being on their creative team?
there was a contest they ran called Gold Wednesday, and every Wednesday you'd post a video performing, and if you won like a gold arcane deck of playing cards. And I entered, and I won like, it's not because I'm good, it's because very few people entered, and the ones that did were like young and just beginning. And I was entering with like, professional magician videos to people. And finally Jason Brumbelow wrote and was like, hey man, I won like 3 or 4 in a row. And he was like, hey dude, can you stop? Like, no offense. Sort of like making it hard for, like, we're losing subscriptions, or when someone gives you something, we're just not getting submissions because you keep winning. And I was like, oh, cool, no problem. And that's awesome. So sweet. I'll, mental note. And then they ran a contest where it was like, film your best video, either your trick, or it was really just like film a good video, and the best 3 will win a prize. And the grand prize was this iPad loaded with all of the tricks that Illusionist sells. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Like, that would be a really cool thing to win. So I submitted this really cool long video. I did a bunch of street magic, and like almost everything in it was my own trick. And I ended with something called earbuds, which is the first trick I put on the market, where signed card, you use your headphone cord like a sword. So I'm holding the deck. There's a signed card in there. They insert the headphone cord through the deck. So out one side, out the other, and kind of where they insert it is a knife. So I'm holding it like this, and they're holding their headphones. And when you drop the cards, everything drops except their signed card, which is actually fused into the headphone, right? So the headphones go through their card. It's a really cool trick. Yeah. It's a pain in the butt to set up, but once it's set up, it's a cool trick. And I submitted that as the contest. And I was like, I got this in the bag. Like, no one's ever seen this before. This is cool. I didn't get first, second, or third place. And I was like, yo, like, this is BS. I was like really genuinely pissed. Jeff Price won first, and he had a great video. So that was sort of like, okay, it could have gone either way. But the other 2, I was like, look, this is BS. I should have won this. And I kind of sat on it for a few days, and then I got a call like 3 days later from Jason Brumbelow, and he said, hey man, we pulled your video. We didn't enter you in the contest. We want to buy that trick and actually put it out. So I was like, oh, okay, good enough. And that's how I did that with Jason. Then just sort of hit it off with him and Peter McKinnon, because Peter McKinnon was editing the footage I'd sent him, and we became friends. And really, Pete played a big part in me getting the job, because we became real good friends. And then he was just like, man, we need you on staff. And then Brumbelow left Illusionist, so they had a bit of an opening for kind of a project manager. And I worked in the corporate world, so Brad gave me a chance. And then, I just bulldogged my way up through the ranks and invented stuff and sort of proved my worth and sort of did more than was asked for and worked my way up.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, because I remember a story recently. My wife is really into photography, and a few years ago, she was like, I found this amazing channel all about photography. It's really cool. And then she was playing it, and I was like, he's a magician. She was like, I was like, it's Peter McKinnon. He used to work for Illusionist.
That's one of his prints right there.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
I mean, look at how he sends a print.
Yeah. Unbelievable packaging.
Who else does it? Like, it's just he's a perfectionist,
It's more like a treasure map. It's like something from the fucking Goonies.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. And then you get this. I mean, Pete's a beast. Pete's one of the best brand building people I've ever met in my life. It's great that it's his brand he's built, because he works hard, but he's killing it. Just watching his success. I remember when he left E and quit, and it was like, oh shit. But awesome. Like, that's, you belong right on YouTube. That's what the platform is for, people like you. So we saw a couple people come and go from E and then just start their life on YouTube. Ramsey, Pete, Andre Jick. You guys know who Andre Jick is?
Yeah, I remember him when he was on a business for a while.
Well, he was Theory 11. He was like their camera guy. So he did all their videos and edits. His YouTube channel is, I think he got 1 million plus in less than a year. And it's all on finances, like investing, and which really means he'll make more money than most people, because that's where the ads go. but he took his like real love for cinematography, artistry, art in general, and finance, and just made a channel. And now he's, you know, I'd be hard pressed to believe he's not a multimillionaire off of it already. It's cool. It's just neat to see people with this magic background sort of branch out into these different creative ventures. You know, it's an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, when we had Michael Amar on very, very early on in the podcast, he said that, you know, he was saying, you know, if you have other creative outlets, if you can fuse it with your magic, you're going to be a better magician, and you'd be more authentic as well, more, yeah, and kind of set you apart as well. Because if you can play the guitar, but you can add that to your magic, well, then do that. You know what I mean? It does make sense if you have more than one creative outlet. If you can fuse it, and I mean, it makes it more enjoyable because it makes who you are. And I suppose like when you're creating, you know, unique pieces that not everyone is performing, and it's more like your kind of standalone magic, it's going to make it stand out anyway, even kind of accidentally.
And diversifying your offerings are especially in what we do. It's very few that can make a full-time living just performing magic, right? And I mean like a healthy living, supporting an entire family. I know people can make 50 and 100 grand a year, but I mean, if you want to make 200 plus a year, that's a tough thing to do as just a performer, right? Yeah. Unless, you know, there are people that can, but I mean, the average person like myself, I've got to have multiple streams, inventing magic tricks, consulting for other magicians, consulting for companies, right? But using it in this idea of, you know, thinking and acting and persuading like a magician. Yeah. Then it keeps it fresh too, right? Then it's not, I got to go do the restaurant gig again, or I got to go fly for another corporate gig. It's always something that falls back on what the true love is, which is the art of deception or magic. And it's crazy to me that some people could just live their whole life doing, you know, kids shows or colleges or cruise ships. Yeah. I mean, I get too bored with stuff too quick, man. You know, I need something new.
Yeah.
It's a creative thing as well. Like you always end up, if you're really creative, you get bored really fast, you know? So it's like, you need that different things just to keep your brain going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's it's that quickness, right? This sort of fleeting of ideas that if you don't grab onto and run with, it's gone. And there's a great book, Big Magic, I think it's called. It's by the author of Eat, Love, Pray. I think or Pray, Eat, Love, some really famous book. But she also wrote this book, and it's all on creativity. The whole point of it is creativity. Big Love or Big Magic. It's called Big Magic. Killer book, man. The stuff she talks about on being a creative person and these ideas that like it's not really our idea, you know, it's been gifted, and the ones that are creative are the ones that can grab that gift. Like she has a story in there, it's so trippy and I won't do it justice at all, but and the long and short of it is she had a very vivid and articulated idea for a book, right? For this character in a story of an entire book. She's an author, so her friend authors. And something about this lady and her had been corresponding, but very briefly through letters. And then like 20 years later, they get to meet for the first time, but they'd been corresponding through letters the whole time. And never once did she say a thing about this to her, not to anyone. It was just a draft note thing in her. When they meet for the first time, the girl is giddy with excitement because of this idea she has. She pitches the idea to her. And she's like, I went white as a ghost. It's the exact same fucking idea I had 20 years ago. Never mentioned. And she's like, of course we were writing, so maybe some things slipped out. And she's like, never. It's a really cool sort of look at this idea of like, if you don't grab it, it's not going to vanish. Someone else is going to grab it and do with what they should, right? So it's a cool book. If you're into creativity, it's a really cool look at creativity. It's a little spiritual and out there, but there's some cool stuff in it.
Because I think that thing where it's like gifted to you as well, you really feel sometimes where like, because sometimes you're coming up with a trick or even a line and you're really struggling and like putting things together, trying different methods, and you're like, oh, it's not there. And then other times an idea just comes fully formed in your head and you're just like, yeah, that works. I didn't even think of this trick, and now I have a perfect method for the entire. Because I wanted to do a chair test, and the whole method just came to me like in an instant, and I had to like quickly write it down so I wouldn't forget it. And I was like, yeah, that all works, and then did it, and was like, it's perfect. It's like the method is deceptive, and it just comes to you. And then other times it's like a slog trying to just come up with anything thing to get through it. But it's interesting how it's like a gift.
Yeah, it's almost like when you overproduce something too. Like you could do a really badass show reel with loads of like bells and whistles, but then you put up like some organic video of you doing something at an event or something, or someone else films it, and that thing goes viral, and your big production one is just like on your website. You know, it's the same. It's the same kind of thing. Sometimes if you overproduce even an idea, it belittles the idea. It weakens it. And like you said, if it's something that just kind of pops into your mind, it was meant to happen that way. So kind of leave it as it is sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I think that a lot of creative people have that perfectionism. And, you know, to be honest, a lot of performers, but also creatives have that imposter syndrome really heavily. So it's hard to put your work out there if you don't think it's perfect or it can be improved on. And then you end up, like you said, overdoing it. It's like, man, if you would have left iteration 2, it would have been perfect. But what'd you put all this crap on it for? That's definitely one of the challenges is right. How do you know when to stop, or how do you know when it's good enough?
Yeah.
Does it need that twist ending at the end? Or like, am I just confusing everything and making the story not work and all that sort of stuff?
Your triple climax of
yeah. When you're putting together things to come out like for release, how do you like know when something's like ready for release, that like it's good enough to go out and that it's not worth waiting 6 more months or something like that?
So right now with Vulpine, our goal is that we'll never release something if I haven't worked it to a paid audience for at least 6 months. So for me, if I can work it for 6 months without tweaking a lot of it, now maybe the script will tweak, but that's evergreen. That's always going to happen. But if the method, the prop, and everything is worked for 6 months to paid audiences and getting a good reaction, then I think it's ready to go out, right? And then you might run into the obstacles of manufacturing and how much is it going to cost and things like that. But as far as like something I'd be happy putting my name on and selling, it's got to be in my show for 6 months and getting reactions. And some of them aren't. I've got a piece that I still think is one of the best things I've ever created, but I can't figure out how to get a damn reaction out of it for the life of me. You know, it's like, so it's not redesigning any of the prop or the method. It's figuring out what am I missing? Like what all the magicians I show it to are like, what the dude, sell it. And it's like, but I couldn't film a trailer because I'm not there yet. Right. It's just this cool toy that we like right now. So it's for me, and I understand a lot of creators don't have the ability to perform a lot. So I don't really know how you would know if it's done unless you had a trusted network of friends that really had your best interest in mind and ask them. But for me, that's the general public. They'll be the best audience in the world if something's worth it or not. And I don't think, everything I put out, I want people to use. I could put out 10 things that are cool and probably would sell, but I'm not using them like in real world. So if they just buy it once and throw it in their drawer, you're just another magic company, right? The people I think who I love, that I buy everything they put out, Cody Fisher and Bill Abbott. The reason I do that is because I know for a fact, if I like what I saw in the trailer, it will be in my show, right? There's no question about it. So that's kind of what we're trying to emulate, is like, no matter what's on the website, it's been tested for a half of a year to a paid audience and gotten received well. That's kind of my litmus test to know if it's ready.
Yeah. That's great, though. I mean, there's a lot of, there's so much magic being produced these days. People aren't going to that extent. There's a new trick every day, every week, or whatever. And there's always the next thing. And then as soon as it's out, there's a big, fanfare or whatever. And then all of a sudden it just fizzles out. But if you're putting the time in of like 6 months tried and tested, they're not testing drugs for 6 months these days. They're just like out it goes, So I think that's a really, it's nice to kind of hear that from a magician, where it's not just produce and get it out and make money and move on. It's more about, you're thinking about the performance and how it's going to react. And then I suppose in retrospect, no matter what way they perform it, might get a different reaction, but at least they're going to get a reaction. They're going to be able to make it their own.
And I'm trying to build a company that isn't around for a year or two, but is around for a long time. And I can still I want to be able to, in 10 years, take Grandfather's Top, which is the first release, and still perform that. I might change the script entirely, but I know that I don't think I could push that too much further than where I've pushed it. So in 10 years, I could still sell that same product and still stand behind it. Now, I might have more gray hair than I do in the tutorial, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be in a situation where it's like, oh shit, thank God that thing's sold out because I don't want to sell that anymore. And I've, you know, if I'm being completely honest, there are effects that I've released that are those, right? That are kind of like, shit, I hope they're getting forgot about. But that was that growing and learning. And I learned that's what I refuse to do at a company if it's my own company. And my business partner agrees wholeheartedly. If we're going to put it out, we should be able to sell it in 10 years from now. We should be able to sell it in 20 years from now. Right. And I don't think you can if you don't work it, you know, actually work it.
Do you feel like if once you release it, do you feel like you don't perform it as much once, let's say it's a big blockbuster and everyone's doing it? Do you feel like you're not going to do it as much because now it's no different than, you know, when you bought it? People won't really know that you're the creator of it, or does that matter? Does that matter?
I don't care at all. And I think most real professionals don't give a shit. No, we all know the tricks mean absolutely nothing. I've never been hired because someone went, oh, I heard you did this trick. That isn't what it's about. Now, if you're at a strolling environment with other magicians, you don't want to be doing the same stuff. Again, who gives a shit, right? They could probably see the same trick and not know it's the same. So to me, I don't care. I perform everything I've put out from Vulpine, with the exception of Grandfather's Top, because that's some setup and it's got to be the right environment. I do at every single gig I go to. So there's not a gig that I don't have my gaff lighters with me, my in case of emergency, my what, where, when, why. Like these are the things that I'm now inventing because I want them. This next one after Cups and Beans, it's a chair test as well. But I wanted a chair test with no chairs that could fit this big and could play for 1,000 people. This thing is, I love this trick. But it's a perfect example. I saw it at the Magic Circle
thing, the Q&A for the Magic Circle group.
Okay, cool.
I was watching that live and I saw that chair test thing. So I'll be buying that anyway.
Straight away, all I heard was, I have to buy it. I have to buy it as soon as it comes out.
It's one of those things that, again, I've probably got another half dozen shows till I'm happy. I love it. I know there's 2 or 3 beats that I'm missing that I could take it from a good trick to a great trick. And that'll be half a dozen shows and then I'll get it. But then it'll be in my show for the next 10 years, you know, and if someone else is doing the exact same effect exactly like I'm doing it, it's going to look weird. They're not me. They don't have my kids. They don't have my, you know, so most professionals know that. And even if they buy it, they're putting their own spin on it. And I think you could watch someone do it and then me do it the next day and you would still go, different tricks, you know? So no, I love seeing people, Cups and Balls. People are like, oh my God, it's going to be everywhere. That's the only downside. How many people do you think really watch magicians perform a Cups and Balls? You act like you're probably more than likely the first magician they've ever really seen. And even if someone had seen a Cups and Balls routine, they're not going to remember, oh yeah, another guy did it with coffee beans. So I just think it's a problem that most people who don't actually work have, right? People who aren't out there working will be like, well, I'm not going to do it if anyone else does it. Okay. Sweet. You're going to miss out on a lot of really good tricks that way, you know?
Well, the reality of that trick is it should just look like 3 mugs, and like, who doesn't have 3 cups or mugs, you know? So like, it's not a prop. It's like, oh, I'm bringing out this thing. Like when we talked about the Omni deck and stuff, like many times, and like, yeah, it is one of those things where if you're in a certain, you know, and everyone's doing it, then everyone's kind of expecting it. So then mix it up, you know, you're not stuck to one trick. Don't do it the same way. Do it in reverse. Do whatever, but make it your own. It doesn't have to be, throw away the instructions. Just buy the thing and then fuck away the instructions and do your own thing.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. And that's where your personality will come in, right? If you want to be hired, you got to be hired for you, not because you're a magician. Because guess what? Google has about 30,000 magicians that I could hire. But if you want to be hired for you, you have to make them your own, right? You have to, like you said, get rid of the instructions and go, all right, as Adam Wilber, how would I do this? Cool. That's what they're hiring, right? They're hiring you as a human, not you as a thing or a service item, you know?
Yeah. I always aim for, at the end of my gigs, to have people ask me about myself rather than about a trick I did. So at the end of the set, if they go, oh my God, like, are you from here? I'm like, yes, they're asking about me. They're not asking about like, oh, when you made that card appear underneath that glass, how did you even think of it? It's like, I want questions about myself. It was like,
you know, what's funny? anytime someone says, I saw a magician, ask them, oh, what was their name? I'll bet you 99.9% of the time they won't know their name, right?
Yeah.
And that's our fault for sure as magicians. Some people do it exceedingly well. Look at Bill Malone, right? Everyone at the party at that place knows his name. That's not by accident, right? That's a true professional. And I think it's exactly it. My mentor said, if you can get them to want to have a beer with you after the show, you've done your job.
Yeah.
If they like you, they'll want to have a beer. They'll want to continue a conversation. They'll want to chat with you. If you can pull that off, you've done your job. And I believe that, you know, I don't give a shit about the tricks. That's why when people say, what happens if you screw up a trick? So what? I'm a human being who make mistakes, and I'll tell my audience that. Well, they don't all work. Moving right, you know, like I think the best.
It's called mentalism.
Yeah, right.
Propless
we'll
mentalism.
find out tomorrow. The reveal happens tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It is that sort of thing of like, because sometimes you always, especially early on, you're always chasing that like one trick that's going to make your career. You know, like if I just buy this trick, I've made it. And like you still sometimes fall into that trap. I fall into that trap where you're like, oh, I've seen this trick. Like, for example, your chairless chair test. That's going to make my career. I'm going to be on TV when a national show once I buy that one. But it's afterwards you realize that it is the tricks that don't matter, because as me and Steve have talked about, sometimes you buy all this new stuff and you're so excited, and then you go to the gig and you just do the same old shit that you know gets reactions and you know works well. So you're just like, that'll do. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's got their workers, No,
go ahead, please.
I was just saying that everyone's got their workers, you know stuff that hits, you know where to put in the punch, you know the lines, everything, how you want them to receive it. You want to pull emotion out of them? Do you want them to be sad or happy or whatever? Do you want to bring them down on a journey? If you have all that already built into your performance, it's very hard to take like one of your babies out to put another one in. It just doesn't happen. It happens sometimes with stage shows. I remember talking to Paul Dennis one time, and he was saying, take your best trick out of your show, regularly, and put in something new. If you're getting huge reactions every now and again, take out your best trick and force yourself to put in another. And then by the end of it, all the tricks you've taken out, you've got a great show from like 6, mediocre shows. And it was a great tip. I remember he said it in the masterclass, and I've tried to do that. There's a few staple tricks that I've done over the years, that have been rock solid tricks in my show. And every now and again, I try to put it hurts. Like, you got to put it out of your show and then put in something else and then test that and work that in. But at the end, you kind of have a little kind of a bank of great effects that you can hammer together anytime and make another really solid show, depending on the client or whatever it might be.
That's great. Yeah, Paul's a legend, man.
Yeah. Sadly missed.
I know, just one of a kind. Well, would never really be missed. His work will live forever. So, but yeah, I think the idea that reputation maker, right? Oh, this one's going to be a reputation maker. It's like, you make your reputation. The trick doesn't. Back in the day, Blackstone and the light bulbs and things of that, the marketing in the world was so much different than you could, right? You could be the guy that escaped handcuffs. You could be the guy that did the light bulb thing. But even they were copied, right? Even those people would be copied. But in today's world, there's nothing original. And if it's going to stay original, then you're going to have to lock yourself in a room and only perform to certain people and have them promise they won't tell anyone what the routine, like all of that was 100 years ago, right? The secrecy of what the effect is. I think the true next push and growth in magic will be when all the people that see it as cool do the transition of understanding the power that it has. So instead of it being a trick to get a chick or a free drink or a laugh or whatever, then at some point in your career, you get that moment where you're like, oh my God, dude, you make someone cry or whatever it is, where you realize there's a lot more to this, right? It's a lot bigger than just doing some tricks. And I think the big push, there's so many people that got into magic over the last 5 years that if a majority of those people can get that and feel that, then I think there'll be just like a revolution in magic of this like really impactful artistic approaches to magic. And I can't wait for it, but I think we're in a golden age right now. Like, magic is cool right now, and everyone expects magic to be cool, and social media has done a lot for it. Something will break after that, right? Something will crack, and it'll be up to like the newcomers to grasp the idea of how really important magic is, as opposed to it just being a clown or an entertainer. And when that hits and the masses kind of latch onto that, it's going to be an exciting time for sure.
Yeah, it's important to try to make it an art. I mean, there's a lot of people who are just in it to, make money and like you said, just do smaller shows, and that's their life, and they're happy and they're comfortable, and that's fine. And they might not have any ambitions or maybe any creativity to do anything outside of that, and that's fine, because there's that in music as well. There's some people who just want to write music and not perform, and vice versa. But you can see, like, we've talked about this with loads of magicians that have been on, about making magic an art form again, that it needs to be seen as an art. It's not just just a kind of a throwaway thing or whatever. I mean, art, there's dance, and there's loads of different arts, there's loads of different disciplines, and there's so many disciplines in magic, everything from escapology to magic, to close-up magic, to mentalism, to hypnosis, everything. That it should be seen as an art. And I think great magicians, and not just standard magicians doing everyone else's tricks and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to make it. I don't want to sound like fucking Donald Trump, but it has to be made kind of great again. Get a red hat and go around like a pompous bastard. But yeah, I think it needs that. We don't really have the greats anymore. And they are coming, like you said. There has to be a new breed of them at some point. But it's hard to know what way it's going, because we had who was it? Joan Myers on, and he was talking about like bad magicians is what's holding back the art of magic, and he's kind of right. There's such a gray area of people like, oh, I hate magic. It's because they've seen a bad magician. But like, what's a bad magician? A bad magician that is someone that doesn't have love or passion for it, I guess, really.
Yeah, there could be a lot of bad magicians, and it is unfortunate because once you see one, you assume that's it, right? But there's also the plus side to that, where if now, not in getting booked, because if someone's booked a bad magician, they're not booking another, but in general of, oh, I've seen a magician and you're good, and that you get that like, oh, I've seen one, yeah, it's okay, and then you do some solid magic that hits him in the heart. That's it's setting the expectations so low that when you over deliver, that gives us that opportunity to do so. But you're right. I think there are a lot of bad magicians, and with social media, it's very easy to see them. Before, it wasn't so easy to just be bombarded by bad magicians. But the other thing to keep in mind is that we all follow magicians. So our social network feeds, like, look at your girlfriend or your wife's feed. She's never going to see a magician in years. She might see one of your posts, but we see it 24/7.
Yeah,
of course we see bad magic. Like, you can get this impression that it's like, holy shit, magic is garbage, because all you're doing is your whole feed is a 13-year-old kid doing a flap card or someone butchering something else, and everyone trying to be this, whatever it is. But I had to unfollow a ton of friends even because I didn't want to see so much magic anymore. It was like making me not like it. Well, that's absurd. Yeah. I have full control over that, right? Like, I'll just stop looking at this shit. Problem solved. But most people don't do that. And the majority of people that you say, I'll show you a magic trick, most all of them are like, hell yeah, let's see it. So while there are bad magicians, I don't think bad magicians are ruining the art of magic by any means. I think bad magicians will always be there, and good magicians will always be there. And again, if you've got someone who saw a bad magician and you do a really, really beautiful piece of magic to them, you think they remember that as a bad magician? No, they just now know, oh, that guy just didn't do magic right. That was how magic's supposed to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the opposite to singing then, in a way, because there is the thing we talk about where, like, people know what good singing is. So if they hear a bad singer, they don't go, oh, singing is crap. But if you say, oh, John there, he's a really good singer, and then in their head they have Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, and then John's okay, and it's a letdown. But then it says, oh, this guy does magic. Their expectation is so low that if you do anyway decent double lift, you're killing it. And you're exactly Harry Potter. So it's like,
because when they say it, the first thing they want to say is, oh, he does? Hold on, let me get my kid. And it's like, no. He wants to do it to you, like as an adult to an adult. Really? Yeah. But it does. It gives us the opportunity to, learn the craft to the point where those moments let us shine, as opposed to be like, oh, you don't like magic. I love when someone goes, oh, or the best is, yeah, I know a couple tricks. It's like, yeah, let me show you one or two, and then you show me yours, you know, and then you just hit them with immaculate connection or something that's super like, what? And now it's like, show me yours. No, I don't want to show you. Never mind. You know?
I used to be a nightclub magician. I got stopped by a guy, and he was like, he wasn't a semi-professional. He just did a bit of magic around the club every now and again, but they were paying me to be there. And I was a house guy, and he was there one night, and he was like, "Oh, can I show you a trick?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "Will you use my card?" So he did a trick for me, and that was fine. So then I just got him to pick a card of his own cards. But as I palmed off everything and dropped them back into his side pocket, and then just vanished the deck and was like, "Is that your card?" And I was like, "Is that your card?" And he's like, "Where's the deck?" And I was like, "It's in your pocket. I work here." And he was like, oh, he was just mind blown. He literally just like, he went around the bar and the club and just telling people what happened, and he just brought me an audience. It was just fantastic.
Awesome.
But
you're like, you know what? Let the professionals take care of this. It's in your pocket.
It's just fun to do that. You know, you're not, you know, it's not pushing out your chest or anything. It's just a bit of fun. Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those perfect moments. Like,
my favorite thing to do is take the method that they'd use. So let them do a trick, spot the method, and then do a trick using the same method back. Like a lot of people would do the key card trick where the next card I turn over will be your card, that bet thing. And then I'll just do something else that uses key card in a completely different way. And they're like, oh my God, how did you know that's method? It's like, same method. So that's
same way you do.
People, yeah.
That's great.
You can't really expose it because you can twist it up so much and stuff. But I think with the art of magic as well, it's interesting because of like a lot of gigs, there are the stage gigs, but a lot of people are close up strolling magicians. And then a lot of times you get like lumped into the category of a singing waiter or just some sort of light entertainment during a drinks reception. I think. Do you have any like advice on how to like, when you're approaching a group or somebody in a drinks reception, to how to still be able to get it to be like a bit more meaningful and good performance rather than just being like, here's the trick and here's the trick.
Yeah, be more interested than interesting, you know, in all honesty. So genuinely find out and care about the group. The magic will be the magic, right? You can't suck because that's not going to work for you. But if you're good, if you genuinely care about them and ask who you are and what you do and where are you from and how was that, and then do some magic, you're going to be 10 times more memorable than just walking up and saying, hey, I'm the hired magician. Can I show you something? Now there's the moment of interruption, which is its own thing, right? Walking up cold and interrupting a group, that's got a whole course on its own, but there's plenty of ways to do that are classy. I think the best and easiest way for me is to be, you know, one step better dressed than everybody in the room. If you walk up to a group in a really, really nice suit, they're going to think you're a manager, you're somebody, a CEO, or someone to pay attention to. And then if you start doing really powerful magic while you're also interested in them and genuinely so, that's hard to not like that person, right? There's always the alpha males that'll think you're trying to make them look stupid. Okay, you work around that. But if you're dressed really nicely, you know, your teeth are brushed, your hair is done, you smell nice, you're a true professional.
That's where I've been going wrong, so yeah.
But honest, I mean, those little things, your shoes, they should have no scuffs on them. A lot of times, really rich people, the first thing they look at is your wrist and then your shoes, right? So if you want to be taken seriously, make sure your shoes are on point and they're buffed out. And then even if you can't afford a Rolex, don't buy a fake one, but then don't wear a watch, right? Something, but just know that it's a lot more than your magic that they're receiving. So if it's just blah, 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 that's all give. You're just giving to them, but you're not getting anything back. If I want to know about them and they can tell that they're comfortable because I'm clearly well dressed and I smell nice and there's no food in my teeth, but then I start giving a shit about them as humans and then show them something that blows their mind, it's hard to forget that, right? You become a memorable person because you care about someone. That's why really great magicians use people's first names over and over and over again. If you use someone's first name over and over, subconsciously, now I'm your friend. He remembered my name. Like, of course we're friends. And he asked about what I did. He actually told me his sister does it too, right? Like those little things, being more human and being interested in people will elevate you from being the wait staff or, you know, something silly like that. And I think a lot of performers are so in their mind and so in the, got to go here and go do this and do that. It's good sometimes to chill and just be a human and like, not be this machine who's got to hit 100 tables in an hour. It's to me, I'd much rather be really remembered by half of the group than somewhat remembered by the entire group, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's always the worry when you get booked for tables and you forget to ask, and how many tables are there? And they're like, oh, we book you for an hour. 60 tables. You're like, oh God.
I tell them straight up. I have my rules, and I tell them, if you don't do it, if it's not an hour per 50 people, just know, right? If you have 200 people and I'm not there for 4 hours, I'm telling you now, you're not everybody's going to see the magic. That's just the way this works. And anyone who tells you otherwise is not being truthful. And I can outline it and say, look, a magic set is 5 to 7 minutes. You multiply that out. They appreciate that, right? If you do that, they go, oh shit, he's not just bullshitting me for an extra couple hours. This is like a science to him. It just shows you being a professional. So I never let myself. And if they do and they go, nope, we only need you for 2 hours, no problem, I make a very solid point to say, I need you to point out to the specific people you need to make sure that I entertain, because they'll always have that group. And if you do the event and leave without hitting that group, they'll hate you. Even though they never told you, they'll hate you. But if you say, I know you've got a group of people that you want to make sure see some stuff, could you point them out to me at the start? I give them twice as much attention, which is all the people who booked me really care about, and everything's good, But I make it a point to say, oh, you got 200 people? Excellent. I'll be there for 2 hours or for 4 hours then, because it's 50 people per hour, and that shocks them. And then I show them how it's broken out. 90% of the time they go, great, makes sense, we'll take it. It's educating them on it. People don't know about magicians, right? They don't know what they're supposed to do. They just know
it's true.
Someone asked for a magician,
Yeah. But as well, it could be maybe they might only book maybe like a Christmas party and a summer party or whatever. You do parties all the time. As professionals, we do shows all the time. So we know this. We know what the show is more than they ever will. It's the same with like weddings and stuff like that. Obviously, in Europe, weddings are quite popular and things. They're booking one wedding, but you've done 1,000 weddings. You know it. You know the game way more, and you're making it easy for them to go, well, no, this is the actual structure. This is how it works. I know I do a lot of weddings. Exactly. Even just that is like. It's just a bit of reassurance that, you're dealing with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, makes it easier to hire you for sure.
Trying to convince people that when you hire me for tables, you don't want me interrupting people, because they just go, do it throughout the meal. And I'm like, some people get me between courses. Some people get me when their steak just arrived at the table. This isn't going to work out too well. And they're like, no, it'll be fine. I'm like, no, it won't be fine. People will hate me and they'll hate you for booking me. So
I could be Jesus Christ. I could be Jesus doing real magic, and that steak is still going to be more important. I promise you.
100%.
Right? Food is it. Once that's on the table, I'm non-existent. Yeah, absolutely. Or the worst is, just do your stand-up after dinner show, and we'll start when dinner's done, and then they'll clear the plates, and as you're performing, they'll quietly clear the plates. And it's like, oh, they will? Will they?
Quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people clear the tables off the dance floor in the middle of my show. So my audience just vanished. It was like the parting of the sea. It was just like absolutely crazy.
I'm going to make the whole audience disappear. There we go. They're all gone.
Right. It's crazy. But one thing is I got the email today from Vulpine about the coffee cup and beans. People can start pre-ordering it now. That looks absolutely crazy.
I feel like Wayne's World. We're not worthy. We're scum. We suck.
How is that process going? Is it start of April? I think you were saying before that they're going to be ready and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they'll ship April 4th. But it's been great. It's just been a really long project. That's over a decade in the works. Obviously not fully working on the whole time, but one of the projects I almost gave up on a handful of times just because there's so many little challenges and obstacles, and if it's not done right, it's not worth doing, but finally, the last couple of years got some luck, some things worked out, and I want to knock on wood, but they should be literally leaving the port going, like they should be arriving any day now. And that's it. Everything else is done. So it's been, it's as smooth as it can be with when you make a product. There's always a million things that pop up. So, so far, nothing so detrimental that it's been like, pull the plug. And now it's just the exciting time. People are starting to see it and the feedback's coming in, and I'm seeing people perform it that I've given, kits early to, and just seeing really strong reactions from something that you've put out is not many better feelings. Giving someone a tool to make someone else smile is pretty cool, man. It's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Hopefully we sell 5,000-10,000 units, and then I'll be in real good shape. We'll see if that many people actually perform the classic, but it's been awesome. It's been really well received so far, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it's a great effect, and the concept is so clever. Really, really, really good. The way that it is now, the kind of finished product, is that how you were has it been kind of that since day one, or has it been loads of variations for the loads and everything else?
Yeah, so the loads, there's a guy named Booma, and Booma makes these little mini cups and balls, and they have these friction loads in them. And I got those years ago and was like, oh, that's really cool, but it's such a small dinky set. Like, there's something. So that sparked the idea of one of the loads, of the liquid load. And then I knew I wanted coffee, and I wanted coffee beans to explode out. And then I kind of one of those aha moments got I have a 3D printer. I 3D print a lot. So I sort of I was like, shit, no, that can't work. Just how I just thought that up. And then I pieced some stuff together and did it. And I was like, oh my God, dude. That worked. That works really well. And I call all my friends, and I'm showing people, and they're like, how the fuck are you doing this? So that was 8 years ago. And then they were going to be small cups, little espresso cups. So I played with that for a long time. Then I have big, large Starbucks cups that I played with. And, everything I would play with. At first, the small I liked for the carryability, the portability of it.
Portability, yeah.
But the final loads were bullshit. You get 10 coffee beans, and it defeats the purpose. It's Then I got to these huge cups, and the final loads were that was sick. But they're big, and who's going to carry them around? So I got to the point to where they are now, which are these.
It'd be with a massive load like that. It'd be people going, yeah, Adam Wilber, the guy with all the coffee beans fucking everywhere. It took us 3 hours to clean up. Yeah, we're not fucking having it.
the snowstorm in China guy, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
We stage a mess every time. But it was a lot of it coming together. And then finally, obviously if it's cups and balls, they have to stack. And if they don't stack with enough room, it's not cups and balls, right? So they have to be strong. These are for workers. That means if you drop it once or twice, now they could break, but we went through 35 drops from 5 feet before we got any cracks in it. At home, I knocked one off, and it hit the tile in just the right way that it broke on the first one. So it's how do you make it? Every single part of this thing was a friggin' nightmare, to be completely honest. We thought we could find some cups, and we could tweak the cups, throw some magnets, and save a bunch. Nope. We have to mold the whole thing to get the cups how we want them. We thought, there'll be some existing beans at a hobby store. Nope. Every single one of them has to have its own mold. Then, we'll have pre-made magnets. Nope. These have to be drilled out so the magnets fit. Everything that you would say, how could we cut corners? You can't cut the corners with it. So that challenge and that headache to see it kind of in a box and ready is the most rewarding project I've ever done. Now, Pyro was dope because that made a ton of money. I'm proud of other things I've done, but nothing has been so I've known from the start, from when I had the idea, I was in one way or another, this will be what I'm remembered by. The magic community will be yeah, he created a lot of magic, but those fucking cups and balls, dude, that was brilliant. That was 10 years ago, right? I was I'm going to do it. So I had this sort of North Star of I don't care what the obstacles are. This is happening. And I'm just really happy that we didn't have to cut any corners. We did cut a couple corners in the sense that I wanted a couple other add-ons. I wanted to supply them with the long spoon as the wand. There are these optical illusions where it looks like coffee is pouring out. And I wanted a final load of that where you could go like this, and then there's a statue there. I had to say no to those. It just wouldn't, we would have ended up having to charge more, and the spoons were a nightmare to find, and the ones we found had lead in them. So it was fuck all that. No. So it isn't the exact complete kit that I had prayed to have, but it's it's right there, as close as I possibly could. Actually, better than I could have imagined, to be honest. Because once you force yourself to tool everything, you get all specs. It's exactly as you want it, where you don't have to go, oh, that might work. You know what I mean? So I'm again, never been more proud of something. And I hope people use it. You know, I've got a lot of real pros, like you wouldn't even know they exist, but they're real pros. And they've all been like, tell me when I've already got it. I've got a spot for it. Now they don't care about the routine or anything. They genuinely just said, I've been waiting for a cups and balls that looks like something that isn't from a magic shop, you know? So I'm excited. Definitely excited for it.
Cool. Even just having handles on cups. It's like, it was always known as the cups and balls, and they didn't have handles.
So even this, you know, this is probably a bad angle, but I'm going to try this. There's so many little hidden cool things with the handle that people way more creative than me are going to come up with, which is going to be super exciting. So for instance, I'm holding out, right? Say I'm holding out here and I want to show 2 empty cups. So everything looks normal, but now when I spin it to put it down, it automatically loads it in, right? Which you can't do with a normal cup, right? You just put your hand out. I'll just place the cup on top and with a snap, it's loaded. Also, the little, you know, this thing where we do one cup through the other, it's so much cooler looking with a handle, right? So check this out. Right? It's like,
so cool.
Well, for everyone just listening on Spotify, get the fuck on YouTube and watch this now.
Exactly.
Definitely.
For anyone listening, just go buy the coffee cups and beans from Volpi.
You'll see it in the instructions.
That cup through cup is worth buying it alone. That looks so good.
It was accidental, right? That was a happy accident. I started building out my routine and then I went boop, and I'm looking on video and I was like, what the hell? No. I did it again. Then I picked the normal cups up and I was like, that looks so much better. I get my kids in. I show my son, and my son is, you know, he's 9, but he'll be like, flashed, saw that, other hand. And I did that. And he was like, Dada, how are you doing that? And the minute he said, oh, the handle comes off, I was like, we have a winner.
Oh, boom. It's a magnetic handle. Everything's got a magnet.
Yeah.
Everything's got a magnet.
Exactly.
I'm just waiting for the pyro update where instead of shooting out fireballs, it just shoots out coffee beans out both wrists at the end. Final loads, liquid loads, coffee beans.
Own the rights to, Illusionist owned pyro, so no more advancements on that for me.
You can call it. It just needs to be something that shoots coffee beans out of your wrist. That's all it needs to be.
Coffee beans.
My friends had Lloyd Barnes was doing a one of these things. What the hell are these? A podcast. Good God. And I was in the comments, like whatever, just talking shit and having fun. And the cups got brought up, and there's a mentalist that they were talking to. And I was like, oh, Midge, mentalism, coffee, cups, and beans, whatever. Ha ha ha. Let's do it. And he was like, I bet, let's make it happen. But then they were like, oh, dude, imagine ending it with the think a drink as the final drink. And I was like, well, that's exactly how I'm ending it from now on. Now you've got the whole routine. I used to talk, because I'm an alcoholic, so I've been sober 7 years, and I used to talk about that in the cups routine, where I would say, you know, I'm mainly Irish, so I would say my heritage is Irish, and a lot of us, this is what we put in our coffee, and I would make it vanish and talk about being an alcoholic. It's too dark for this routine, so I took it out. So now at the end, I can do the whole routine. I don't want to say too dark; it's too real for what I'm trying to accomplish with this routine, right? But now at the end, I've done everything. Coffee bean explosions. I want to cheers to the audience, and I can just look at someone and go, ma'am, what is your favorite drink? And whatever drink she names, I pour out a little bit of pre-show, and you're golden, right? A great pre-show and a nice presentation. You've got to think a drink already built into it. And that was literally from a 10-minute conversation with a mentalist talking about them. So I know what's going to happen is in 6 months or a year, people are going to be sending me routines, fooling the hell out of me with my own stuff. Just like, that's the fun part. Like creative performers who take it and go, hey, let me show you what I came up with. You know what I mean? That to me is what I'm really looking forward to.
When I saw the trailer, I had an idea, and I was like, I'm not talking about it on the podcast, but I may talk about it after the podcast.
Awesome. Perfect.
Because I think it's definitely going to be one of those things that's like, it's modernizing something, because it's great for like people who are like doing a show, you can do it, but there's so many magicians who perform like behind a bar, and like you serve coffee at a bar, so you've got like the bar in front of you, just everything set up, and you can just perform perfectly fine. It's just like it really does fit in every environment. It doesn't need to be purely like a coffee.
It's just the most recognized thing on the planet. It's a cup of coffee, right? It's a coffee cup. Anyone, like third world countries have coffee mugs, right? It's like and I really wanted it. Do you guys know what Denny's is? Have you ever heard of Denny's, the eatery?
Yeah.
So my whole goal was like, because Denny's cups, you cannot break those friggin' cups, dude. So I was like, yo, I want to mirror Denny's, but stack them. Oh, there's got to be something that exists. Nope. That does not exist. Like, even looking for coffee cups that stack is extremely challenging. There's in 3 or 4 years of hunting, I might have found 25. And I mean, hunting. Chinese manufacturers, I know. It's just not, most of the ones that stack are espresso, and they stack in this little thing. But you just don't get the same, they don't stack right. They don't, like, it almost was going to be an espresso, smaller little deal. We weren't going to supply the arms that hold the load inserts, and it was just going to be this sort of portable. And as I was working it and showing friends and family, you know, in my head, I was like, this is the cop-out version of this, right? This is the easy way out. And it's not cool. It's not as fun as it should be, right? Like, they still look like props because they're espresso cups. Like, they've got to look like you grabbed it off of a diner shelf, and that's that. So, you know, sometimes I like rushing things out because, like you guys, I've got a creative mind that I can't just stay with one thing for too long. It's just not how it works. But with this one, I was lucky because I could keep taking breaks from it, long standing, because there was no timeline. I just knew at some point the stars will align where I'll have the money, the resources, and this will be a thing. And I'd take a year off or 2 years off. I'd see something, I'd add it in and be like, ooh, get a little inspired, right? Then the next thing, then the next thing. And then with Volpine, we sat down and said, you know, what's our first big thing where we're going to take a chance and invest everything we have? I pitched it to Felix. I showed him what it was, and he was like, don't say another word. That's it. Like, that's where we're going. And we did it. Within 2 years, we had it. So, like I said, knock on wood, today, tomorrow, they show up at the warehouse, and then tens of thousands shipping worldwide.
There you go. Prestige worldwide. There you go. Awesome, man.
I think a lot of people have some very cool stuff, and it's with the loads as well, because the coffee beans come with it, but people can like use sugar. You can use like, there's so many things that you can like tie into the whole routine as well. So it's definitely a creative juices flowing.
The only limitation of the load inserts are the weight. I don't have them in here. Think of it, a cup full of coffee beans, that's about the weight, because, you know, the way it works is there's a magnet piece on the bottom, and you push forward and it disengages the magnet. You lift. Let me just show you. Hold on.
Cool. It's going to be a really cool thing. It's just kind of like, I can see people loading like bugs. It's just a lot of ants.
Oh,
For the right big Halloween.
Yeah. People will load all sorts of mess.
Pretty
boom.
box.
Very cool.
That's all thanks to my partner, Felix. He did all the artwork. But this is the kit minus the arms. I have the arms out because I'm practicing some stuff with them. But so this is the load in. That's the liquid load insert. This is
awesome.
Another thing that took about 4 months was to make this quiet. So listen to this. This is the mic right there.
Yeah.
Right next to the.
Oh.
Did you hear it?
Barely.
It's just like
nothing.
So
nothing. Yeah.
So this insert here, this is the final load insert for the explosion, right? So you're here, you come over, tap quickly, and you're loaded. So the way it works is 3 magnets and then a magnetic plate. So this plate can hold this full of coffee beans, but that's about the weight limit. So one homie of mine was like, oh, I'll do change. And I was like, no, you won't. That's too heavy. But sugar cubes, anything that, you know, that'll pop off if you hit it hard enough. But if this is full of coffee beans, that's strong enough that it's going to hold the coffee bean. So once it's on the table, all I have to do is twist and pull, and it'll explode out, right? Or slightly push forward and lift up. So it is limited just and genuinely only by the strength of the magnet that it holds.
Yeah. Very cool.
Because even just one cup on its own, and like if you were going to do like a mentalism-y routine, you could have just the one cup, show it empty, load it with a bit of pre-show. It could be anything, like some sweets, like their favorite candy, or
tarantula.
Yeah, a tarantula, some a load of ants. You know, if you really want to go into the.
You guys said you had Joel Meyer on.
Yeah,
It'll be something like that. Here, hold it. Boom! Now it's just a snake that comes out or something. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool, and definitely recommend it. Like, it's the box as well is cool because it kind of looks like a classic kids magic set with all the different pieces like laid out. So it's like
it's awesome.
I mean, imagine walking into a magic shop as, let's say, a 14-year-old kid really into magic, with the intention of, I want to learn how to do the cups and balls. And this is sitting up there on the shelf, right? This big cartoony box that's just massive. And they're like, oh, yeah. And dude, the teaching has it's going to be like 10 hours of teaching. So it's like, you're not just getting the kit. Like, the whole goal was that this is when people walk into a magic store and they say, I want to learn the cups and balls, without hesitation, they go, you buy that kit. It's got more teaching than you'll ever need, and they're modernized and yada, yada, yada. And luckily, I have some great friends in the magic community, and they all were kind enough to put their routines in. And it's just going to be this ever-long growing catalog of, hey, here's Johnny's routine, here's Pete's routine, here's Sarah's routine. And they just upload them in there, right? So it's like the world's best cups and balls, remember that DVD from L&L, but with the set as well, right? It's like you get everything you need and all the teaching. So definitely, I'll be honest, ready for it to be on the market so I can kind of stop thinking about it for a little bit and perform it and enjoy it. But we're right there. We're a couple weeks away from it. So
that's awesome, man. After 10 years, congratulations. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Really cool. Thank you very much. I mean that. Thank you.
So we have a segment on the show called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where we ask someone to tell a story about a performance that kind of started off well and slowly went downhill from there. Do you have a performance story in mind?
Sure do. Yeah. Back when I was in Vermont, I had a client, and this was way back in the day. So $1,000 for strolling for me was good money then. I mean, it's still good money now, but this was back when I was like, holy shit, I got this guy conned. But he hired me a lot. He had a lot of events, and I was his guy. He loved me. So he has this really important event, and we're in a restaurant, and he makes note and says, it's an investor, and that's his wife. I want you to do something for him, but really mess up his wife. Do something amazing for her. Cool. And investor for him's $50 million. Don't screw this up. Of course. I got it. I got this. So I go and I perform for the husband, and I did, I think, Ambitious card with Mercury fold to John Kennedy's card box. And then I ended with something. I gave him a souvenir. I had something. Oh, I'd pre-made linked cards, and I did a linking card and linked my business card to his card and gave it to him. I was like, oh, I'm fucking in, dude. I win tonight, And then I'm all chest out going over to his wife, and she's standing by the drink tray, by the coffee, ironically enough, where all the coffee cups and shit is stacked up. And I do Jim Pace's The Web on her. I quickly found out she was a poster child for arachnophobia, a genuine fear of spiders, pass out fear. Okay. So I build it, I do it. She waves, passes out into the tray of drinks, which is on a push tray. So it doesn't just knock them over. It flings the fucking thing across the restaurant with shit coming out everywhere. Me standing there with the deck, the 4 cards in my hand, looking at this lady who passed out on the floor. And of course, her husband jumps to her aid because she hit her head on the way down. And I'm just standing there with the cards in my hand, and I look over, and the guy that booked me is looking at me like he wants to stab me in the heart. Doesn't know what happened. It's just me and her in a corner. This tray goes flying. She screams, passes out, knocks her head, and the main investor guy jumps there to see I didn't kill his wife, basically. The guy comes over, the event booker guy comes over, grabs me like firmly, like grown man firmly by the arm, pulls me aside and goes, "You need to get out of here right now, and you're not getting paid." I packed my shit up and never heard from him again.
Whoa. Oh. I know it didn't happen, but I love you look down at all the coffee cups and all the mess and coffee beans and everything like, holy shit, I can make a trick out of this.
Cups and balls.
I'm like, that's where my circle comes complete, because that's
oh, that's nuts. Yeah, man.
Blood
Holy
was
shit.
on the cups. It had a really cool red hue to it. It really inspired me.
That's why my final load is blood every time I do it. Just like blood.
Yeah.
That's the only way you could save it is by, like, as she's falling, just go sleep and then just pretend you're a hypnotist like the whole way.
And still leave.
She was a bigger woman, and like the whole thing was bad. Everything about it. The restaurant was furious. I mean, there might have been 200 plates and dishes that just as the thing went, they were just like it was out of a movie, dude. And just the dumb, again, I'm in the corner, so it's not like I can kind of hide in the crowd. It's me and her. For all anyone knows, I punched her in the face and she fell on the ground because I'm just standing there like kind of like looking down at her, and then her husband jumps in, so I get scared and look at him, and then immediately look up, and there's the event guy just like, what do you say? Like, what do you do at that point? She still has the friggin' spider on her hand because it's.
I was going to ask. I was like, did you get your spider back at least?
I did.
Sorry, you just need to.
The guy, her husband, knew exactly what happened because I went to get the spider and apologize, and he looked at it and looked at me and just went right back to her like, yes, we should know better, right? It is our job as an entertainer to know about people's personal boundaries and things that could offend or hurt people. Yes. But come on, man. People make mistakes, and he looked at me like I punched her in the face. Like he knew what was up. He'd seen me do the spider thing, and it was sort of like, and come to find out after, a good friend of mine works for that company. So I called him after because I wasn't going to call the guy, the main guy. And I was like, what the fuck happened, dude? Seriously, what did she faint? And I got busted for it. And he was like, yo, she is absolutely terrified. Like will pass out if she sees a spider, and you did a spider trick on her. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know that, dude? But I've never, ever done that trick since. Not once have I performed that trick since. I since have gone to my pet Boris, and I do the butterfly.
Oh, yeah.
Lesson learned. It's too good of a trick to not do.
It's a great trick. I used to do it years ago as well in the club kind of stuff. I used to do it, but I used to use the cards. I would just use it. I would just load it, and then I'd like hold this glass or whatever, and they're holding the glass and say, now a creature's going to appear inside, and then I have them wave their hand over the glass and bang.
Have you seen my pet Boris with the augmented reality and stuff?
Yeah.
That's so good. So good. So when I was at E, one of the last things I was going to do, because it's just that good of a trick. Like it's one of those ash on palm moments. Like it's that good. So my idea, instead of the hand, was to, you guys know hanging coins? Hook coins with a little hook on them?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, my name's Adam. Nice to meet you. Touch on the shoulder. Boom. It's on there. But what it is a little cartoony spider that has animated legs. And they're not animated. It's actually a vibrating device that when it vibrates, the legs wiggle. Okay?
You would have killed that fucking woman.
Oh, dude. When you nail this, it genuinely, in the routine I had, a real, like a spider duplicate would vanish, reappear, almost like a one coin routine with a spider. And I was talking about spiders and how when you think they're there, you look and all of a sudden they're here. Right? And the whole theme was this idea that this damn thing jumps around. And we've all seen the video of the guy that tries to trap it and it jumps on him. So I'm telling that as it's bouncing around. And then I'm looking for it going, what the hell? Shit. Oh. And the minute I do that and point to their shoulder, the vibrator kicks on. So when they look at their shoulder, they see a spider going like this, like looking like it's running up their shoulder. It was so good. It was so good. But I think I talked to Brad a while back and was like, hey, man, because I I worked that during the time there. I was like, "Are you going to do anything with that?" And he was like, "Yeah, we are." Damn it! I really love that.
Man, I'd say Brad heard your story about what happened to that woman, and he's like, "Fuck that! No."
Yeah,
we can't let Adam have that spider thing. He'll kill someone.
He'll kill someone with it.
I still think if that comes out, that'll be a grand slam bestseller because it's almost easier to hook it than to stick it on the back of their hand.
Yeah.
And if you time that right, I had a little rough prototype, but even that prototype, its head moved. And its legs did. So the minute you look, you feel it, and then you see this thing going like that. It's a creepy, creepy moment, dude.
That's great.
It's so good.
Really, really good.
Yeah, it's that thing with the spider, just really like you can get people with those things. Like you're just waiting out for the one day someone is terrified of butterflies and passes out because you've swapped it out. Someone with a butterfly phobia.
I won't do it again. I won't ever do that again. I'll do even the butterfly gets people a little weird, but. One of my notebooks has a whole couple page section of reinventing that because there's something really, really magical about this idea of wave your hand and it's there. And if we could take the shock of out of it and build a moment into it, dude, I mean, I think you'd have something really special, but that's for another time. For now, we'll sell our 10,000 cups and balls.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool. We just want to thank you, Adam, for coming on because we really appreciate you giving us your time and sharing all those stories. And
thank you. And again, my apologies for holding you guys up, but thank you for having me on. This has been great.
Absolutely. And for people who want to go get the cups and balls and all the other stuff, where can they go to get that and keep in contact with you and all that sort of stuff?
Sure. Just Instagram is where I post most everything. That's Adam Wilber. But if you want to check out the cups and balls, it's Vulpine Creations. So Vulpine is fox-like, crafty, and cunning is what that means. Creations as it is, but Vulpine's VULPINE, Creations CREATIONS. But yeah, that's got everything on there. And we ship both domestically in the US and in the EU as well, as my business partners from Austria, and we have 2 warehouses. So, but if you have questions, concerns, comments, or anything, hit me up on a DM on Instagram, and it's just Adam Wilber, and it's the WILBER spelling, not BUR spelling.
Definitely, yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely recommend that for everyone to go check out that stuff. The Gaslighter project's on my shopping list. I just need to finally check out because I think it's
awesome.
Cool
awesome.
There, so.
If you end up buying the cups and balls, you get the Gaslighter project for free, my course called Conjuring Cards, and my course called Professional Magician. So it's $100 of free magic just for ordering it from Vulpine. So anyone listening, you support us directly, you'll get all of that for free.
Awesome.
That's a great deal. Definitely.
That was quite the sales pitch.
Yeah.
Quite the sales pitch to end today.
Adam will also throw in a plastic spider to scare the living shit out of your loved ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. It was absolutely great. And if anybody's watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like the video. It really does help. Or if you're listening to the audio thing, and check out our Instagram as well, Deceive Reality on Deceive Reality Ireland on Instagram, because we couldn't get Deceive Reality. So check that out and make sure you follow there with more interviews and reviews coming out there as well.
I just want to end with something there. Really, recently, just so many people have been reaching out just about the podcast, about like that they're really enjoying it and they're loving the caliber of guests and everything. So thanks everyone for joining, because initially this was just me and Dave talking shit, and now we're talking shit with the world's best magicians. So we're delighted to have you guys here, and we'll keep going as long as you keep wanting to see it. So thanks again, Adam. It was awesome having you on.
We'll probably keep going for a little longer, even when people start.
That's true too, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
so,
thank you guys
so
again. I appreciate it. And anytime I can hear a rock solid Irish accent, I'm all in.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you all again.